Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rich Nonprofit. Today, I have Brindley Brooks. She is the founder and CEO of HS Connect. Hi, Brindley.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure to chat with you. Brindley is a client of mine. We've been working together for years now, it feels like, in the best way, because I have seen Brindley go from two jobs, full-time job, starting this nonprofit, to now running this. And in 2025, she did a very nice job with funding, with events, community, and we are here to talk about it. So let's start. I want everyone to know from your mouth, because you say it best, what is HS Connect and who are you here to help?
So, I have a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. It's hard to say and even harder to live with. Um, and it is a chronic inflammatory skin condition that presents as boil like abscesses anywhere on the body. It most commonly occurs in the armpits, under breasts, groin, inner thigh area. So, most private areas that you're not necessarily inclined to share with everyone. We can hide it, which also adds an element of mental health burden as well. It affects every part of our lives. And I have lived with it for 36 years, and I have two daughters that also have HS. I have a bio daughter who's 18 who actually just underwent major wide excision surgery in her bilateral inner thighs. And then I have my stepdaughter who also has HS, and she's 22 and she's a stage 1. So she's on the mild end, thank goodness, and has been doing really well even without treatment right now. And so HS Connect was born to basically spread factual awareness about HS. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of shame that comes with the condition. So we want to spread factual awareness and then bring disease awareness to just the general population. HS isn't rare, it's just rarely talked about. It affects 1 in 100 people. So chances are you know somebody in your circle that has HS, at least one person. And I always like to think about it like when you get on a plane, how many other people other than me are sitting on that plane with HS? Or when you're at Costco, I'm always like, all right, who in here has HS? So thinking about it in terms of like that in a general situation kind of brings that back down to reality, to like there are people in here walking around with this hidden dirty little secret, I call it. So that's our goal with HS Connect. I did not have this on my bingo card when did not want to be a nonprofit founder. When I grew up, I wanted to be a teacher or a veterinarian or probably a dolphin trainer. But here I am. I now feel like I was built for this shit. This is what I was made for. There has been so much silence in our community with our condition that I did not want my kids to feel that same burden of carrying their dirty little secret. I wanted them to feel empowered to be comfortable in their own skin and to love themselves in spite of, and sometimes because of their HS, because of the person that it's made them to be, just like I feel like it has for me. And so that's where kind of the desire to do this and go through this process started. Because I don't want anyone else to feel that way either. And that is our main goal, is to really help people find, if they have HS, find their diagnosis, get on treatment, and then join the community, be part of this movement that we're creating.
And what a movement you have created. I was so honored to be part of Brindley's, to be there and watching her last October in Times Square, New York City. She put on this event, brought her community together to raise awareness, and it was amazing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
It was kind of so we had purchased ad space on the largest billboard in Times Square. And then we were like, okay, what are we going to do with this? So, we had a photo shoot. It was a very interesting process to get this billboard on Times Square because we're showing butt cheeks and under breasts and things that are not typically shown in Times Square. So we had a little bit of I wouldn't call it a kerfuffle, maybe a little maneuvering around what we were allowed to show, because that is up to the business or the building who owns the media about what can be on there. So our whole goal was for people to see HS on real skin so that they could identify either that's their skin or their loved one's skin, and just have a general understanding of what it's like to be an HS person, or try to help people understand it. So then we were like, okay, great, we have this billboard. What are we going to do? Stand and watch it as a group? Okay, that's cool. What do you want to hold some balloons? I mean, I don't know. What now? Right? So we hadn't really, like, I wanted to be in Times Square to raise awareness, but then the marketing team that we're working with, who is incredible, and I've never seen somebody so bought in to our journey and like really being our champion, was like, what if we did a runway show? And I was like, fuck yeah, that's what we're doing.
And I went, hold up.
Yeah. And we got 60 days to pull this shit together. How are we going to do that? And we did it. And my COO played a huge important role in pulling that all together. Y'all, we pulled funding from pharma at the end of the year to do this. And like, we're not talking small numbers. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. Very, 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 very stressful. I wouldn't recommend doing a 60-day turnaround with something like that. Maybe like we're planning a year this time, much better. But you know what? It was the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm sorry to my husband and my children. They know this now, but like they're like second and third on my list. Times Square is number one. It was the most powerful and impactful thing. I've never cried so much and screamed in pure joy like that in my life. I mean, watching my people like walk down the runway and start off wearing a hospital gown with misinformation on the back of it, that we were shedding, and then walking down that runway in bras and underwear in the middle of Times Square was the most incredible thing I've ever experienced. Honestly, it's a dopamine hit that I'm now chasing, which is kind of dangerous.
Dangerous, but whew. Yeah. I'm watching you all walk down the runway and just with such conviction and love for each other. It was so moving. I've never seen anything like it. And yeah, that it was a big dopamine hit for you. And now you want to go bigger, and you will. But I want to talk about that because with a nonprofit, it comes down to funding. It does, because you are raising money, you are getting money from donors. In your case, you're getting money from pharma, and thank you for that. But it's not always easy. So when you look back on this now of when you started, did you know that it would be this hard to run a nonprofit?
Fuck no. If I had known, I may not have done it, honestly. I mean, I knew I've always had like an entrepreneurial spirit. But I'm a lifer, like where I go, I stay. So I worked at the same job for 17 years, and did like every facet of that job. And then before then I worked in this, I've been in the same industry for 22, 23 years. And I, when I started getting more into HS Connect and riding between both my full-time job and my full-time job that was becoming HS Connect, I really had to decide, and that I belabored that decision. I went out for surgery and then had 3 months to recover and had 3 months to decide if I was going back to work. That was way too long. I should have just not made a decision until the last week, because for 3 months, every day I was back and forth, talking myself into it, out of it, into it, out of it. Very tumultuous time. And then I finally decided that, the real thing that kept me, or that made me make the decision, was the travel piece of it, because my work wasn't very flexible on me traveling and working on my travel days. And I knew I could not show up for the community in the places that I needed to show up if I couldn't have the flexibility to travel. So that was the kind of thing that pushed me over the edge, and led me to doing HS Connect full time. It was the scariest thing I've ever done, because I'm the breadwinner in our family, and, funding isn't guaranteed every year. And I feel like some years it comes easier. This year, 2026 has been a like claw fest of trying to like get what we need in order to maintain overhead and employees and an office to be in. So it's been an interesting year. I think we set the bar really high last year with doing Find Us in Times Square, and we managed to pull it off on a shoestring budget, comparatively speaking to what it would have been if somebody else went in and did it on their own. And I think that the expectation is that we're going to be able to produce something like that for the same amount of money this year, and that's just not the case. And so it's difficult to bring that sense of reality back into the conversation because everyone wants us to go bigger. But in order to do that, I need the funding to increase to do it bigger. And so I think it's been a real kind of point of contention this year of trying to understand where everyone is at with funding so that we can then, it's always this chicken or the egg thing, because we can't decide what we're going to do if we don't know how much money we have to throw at it. And they won't throw money at it until they know how much it's going to cost. Those two things don't correlate. Like it's a constant battle or fight in order for us to produce something. So I feel like there's a lot of conversations. I always call it like used car salesman-y, and I hate that part where it's like, well, I don't know how much you got. Well, I don't know how much are you willing to give. Well, I mean, what ballpark are we talking about? Well, I don't know. What do you want your car payment to be a month? Yeah, I mean, I literally feel like I'm dealing in used cars when I'm trying to like get this information. And it's such a weird feeling because it comes from heart for us. But I also realize that heart costs money.
It does.
It all costs money.
Yeah. And that's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes when you are doing this work. You're a nonprofit, a foundation. You want to change the world. You want to help communities. And so you're right. You've got your big heart on your sleeve. But at the end of the day, you need money to run those programs. And so when we go into strategic planning, it is so interesting because we are working on your programs and what's going to come next. But without knowing how much money you have, you don't know who you can hire. You don't know how long you can run the programs, how many events you can have. And so it gets to be pretty frustrating. But what you are so good at is pivoting. You have learned that, okay, this isn't going to work how I want it to be. And I can't control the outcome, but I can pivot. And I can still help my community because that's what you always go back to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's like, it really has to be the main understanding and mission of what you're doing. And like we talk about that, all the time, it has to be your focus, your focus, your focus. And I think it's hard. I haven't found it to be too difficult yet, but it is when you want to run these programs that will help your community, but you can't because of the funding. And, we experienced this in October, basically, when we were doing Find Us and our Empower campaign in November. We went back and rewrote our prospectuses. We had already sent them out to everybody, but we went back and rewrote them because of the impact that those events had on our community. We saw that and decided that that was something we needed to focus on. It was also feedback we had gotten from our sponsors as well, because they were seeing the magic happen. Mm-hmm. So instead of being stringent and saying, we already set the prospectus out, we have the programs we put in front of people, we went back and said, let's do this differently. Let's rewrite this. Let's give some other options. And that has been incredibly successful, but we did have to pivot midstream and come up with, these pop-ups that we're doing, that we're bringing the community to the most highly densely populated HS cities across the US. So we did pivot, and now it's paying off in dividends. And the magic that we experienced and that our sponsors experienced, we get to take that on the road and hopefully bring that to more and more people. But yeah, it's a constant pivoting. You're listening to the needs of your sponsors as well as the needs of your community. And I feel like our goal is to match those two things together. They're typically in alignment, and then we just kind of decide, what does that look like? But I've never felt pushed to change. That's not true. I have felt pushed to change the way that I do things based on sponsors. And that has been a really tough road. A tough line to toe, because ultimately the money comes from them, but I will not sell my soul or the soul of my community to get the funding. I would crowdsource that shit instead, because it is important to me. The integrity is more important than anything else.
And that's what makes you such a good CEO and founder, is because you protect your community first. Of course, you need that funding, but at the end of the day, you're going to do what's best, and you are going to advocate and keep them safe. And you are so fierce about that. I admire that about you so much, because I understand when you need that money in order to run your nonprofit, it can be hard. Oh, maybe I'll just compromise on this or compromise on this. But then when you look at what your community actually needs, not what somebody else is saying they need, and you say, no, that's not going to work for us. And not a lot of people, women, will do that. So thank you for doing that for your community.
Yes, they're my babies. Like, I love them all so much, and I absolutely want the best for them. And I know that we can help people get to where they need to be. And yes, the money is important, but the integrity of the organization and what we stand for is more important. And that funding will come from somewhere. Like, I truly have faith that it will all work out. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not stressing incredibly, during that period of time, but I do know that everything will fall into place. It always has, because we're doing the right thing. And that is like my North Star.
Yes, you do the right thing, and you do it strategically. I mean, that's not a plug for me, but you do take the time to step back and say, okay, yes, this is what my community needs, but how can I do it in a way that's going to work? Right.
And then I drive you crazy by adding a bunch of shit in and just like telling you on the fly, and you're just like, no. I'm like, yes. I always tell people, you're the only person in my life I pay to tell me no.
And over the last couple of years, I've had to tell you no more and more, because you do have that entrepreneurial spirit. You do know what your community needs. And so you want to push those out into the community right now, these programs, these initiatives. And I'm looking at Brindley, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a CEO, all these things that you're trying to do, and you just don't have the time and the bandwidth. Now, that's easy to say from the outside, because, right, we women who want to change the world, we have all the time. We can figure this out. And the burnout hits, and it hits hard. And this is actually a really good pivot, because I do want to address this with you, because I think every woman I know feels this. It doesn't matter if you're a CEO. We do want to help everyone. We nurture, we care, we keep people safe. And then sometimes we forget about ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like in some cases it's hard, because I don't know where that time comes in to like take care of yourself. And I know, for my situation personally right now, my younger daughter, who's 18, just had wide excision surgery. So she's missing big pieces of the inside of her thighs in an attempt to manage her HS. And it is big and painful, and we do bandage changes twice daily, and she still walks like she got off of a horse, because her thighs can't come together, or it would be problematic for the wounds. It looks barbaric. There have been so many I'm sorries uttered between both of us, and yet my responsibilities remain, My CEO job is still here that has to get done. I still need to show up as a wife. I'm still momming her extra because she can't really, do things like normal. She dropped the cap to, the Advil today, and she was like, oh God. And because she can't bend down to get it yet because it pulls too much on the wounds. And I was like, I got you. It's like, but she's also really frustrated not being able to like do anything. She's lonely at home during the day by herself. And so I feel this emotional pull to want to fill those needs for her. But I am also in the middle of, we call it like a million balls flying at my face. I hate balls in the face.
I think most women do.
So trying to like figure out how to navigate all of this and meet everyone's needs, but then where's the time left for my needs?
Yeah.
Like I haven't even processed the fact that my 18-year-old daughter like chose this surgery, which I've had 7 of, that is barbaric, basically, in an attempt to better her life at the age of 18 because she was having trouble working. I haven't even begun to process this myself because I don't have time. We also had a death in the family during this time. I haven't even shed a tear for her yet because I've been so consumed by everything else. And now comes like the just figuring out how to get Caitlin to the service because she can't sit for that long in a wheelchair. And how do we get her to the graveside where she isn't, I can't, a wheelchair on a bumpy with inner thigh. Now I have to worry about all of these logistics. So where is there the time in there that's built in to like grieve or to process all of the emotions for me as a mom that come with my daughter being in having to make such a big decision at such a young age just in order to try to like better her life.
Yeah.
And these are the things that people don't see. All of the people who are watching are, checking in on our social media. No one knows that this is happening behind the scenes. No one knows that I'm struggling, with getting funding figured out and how to move forward in the organization and how to pivot and, new partnerships that have just come up that could be available. But when I go home at the end of the day, I don't even have the energy to like explain to my family what my day looked like. My answer is now it's just it was good or it was fine. Because I'm depleted. And then I personally like with my travel, I try to build in time when I'm going to Europe to spend with my friend there in Amsterdam, which is very like cathartic for me. Mm-hmm. And then I had to shorten that because of the funeral, which is not a problem. But all of this time I'm trying to listen to you and to everyone else about building in time and space for myself just keeps getting eaten up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to acknowledge that you have worked really hard to find that time. We look at your Google Calendar. We talk about what brings you joy, where you can find quiet. And so we work really hard to get that for you. And then something happens. And as a mom, you're not going to say, well, too bad, kiddo, figure it out. No, of course not. We drop everything. But at the same time, if you have a potential sponsor or funder, you got to get to the office and get that prospectus to them. So it's this, and there's, I cannot stand the word balance because it's just not true. Yeah. It's not something that we can attain. And so it's how do you juggle these balls in your face, if you will. And I think it's so important to talk about because I don't believe that you're just going to say, well, you know what? I can't do HS Connect anymore because not only it was a vision and a big vision, but it's deeper than that now. This is, to me, your life purpose.
Absolutely. This is what I was born for. It's absolutely my calling. And I consider myself like the 1% of the world, probably not even 1%, honestly, maybe 0.25%, who actually A, knows what their calling is, and B, gets to do that for work. Because truly, like, I realize so many people have no idea They don't have a higher calling. They don't have something that like really, really feeds their soul and is like their life's work and is so important to them. And I'm so incredibly grateful that like I got to figure that out, and that's what I get to get paid for. Because truly it makes me sad that other people, what does that feel like? It must be empty.
To just get up and go to a job and
Yeah.
and just, yeah, it is.
And I'm trying to think about how I felt, when I was working, and that is, you're kind of always trying to, for me anyway, like always trying to attain more, move up, be, find a new position, learn everything I can about every facet of everything. But then for what? Because like those people would replace you in 1 second if you died or got sick. No one would care.
Yeah.
But here, like the only thing that is irreplaceable is me.
Yeah.
And hopefully I find somebody who can replace me that is as fiercely protective of our community as I am. Because of my HS, I've sat in the background in the shadows a lot because you don't want to draw attention to yourself. You want to make yourself small. Because if people get to really know you, they know that you're a burden. Or that's the way you feel anyway. And nobody likes Debbie Downer, who never feels good, never has a good day, always struggling. So you learn to act and put on the face that society expects to see, while carrying all of the weight of that. And I think it sets you up in a lot of ways for, we do a lot of masking with that. And I always thought to myself, like, I have such a big personality, but it didn't really start to show until I started doing HS Connect. And then I realized that my honesty, which had always been a lot for people, is one of my most valuable and sought after qualities in this space. Because if there's one thing I am, it's brutally honest with our sponsors. And I'm respected for that. And that was game changing. I felt like I no longer need to make myself small. This is my space. I own it. I belong here. It's mine. You want to come in it, then you're going to hear about it.
And what I saw with you is you got there by taking the action. You didn't wait until you were ready. You didn't just research and hope, and you just went for it because you knew the need was so big, because you've experienced it, you've lived it, that you had to jump in the ring. And you did so. And you just came in like, I got something to say, bitches.
Yeah. And I make this shit up as I go. These prospectuses it's shit I'm pulling out of my ass. Like we're literally, this is the most amazing part about it is you get to design it. And sometimes the answer is, you know what? I hadn't thought that through yet. I'm not sure. Let me give it some consideration. Because you know what? I haven't thought about things from every angle. All I know is that I want to do something that's going to help my community. Here's my idea. How do we make this a reality?
And you take your ego out of it. That is another admirable thing about you, because most people would go, oh my gosh, I did it wrong. Oh, run and hide. I'm going to go make my prospectus perfect on Canva, blah, blah, blah. No, you're pulling your ego out of it. You're saying, okay, but what does my community need? Oh, you know what? Thank you for that feedback. I will go and ask around, think about it more, and then I'm going to come back with another revision. And it works. Yeah.
And I think the other part of it too is seeking counsel from the people you trust. Mm-hmm. So, with the whole Times Square thing, there was a moment where a client asked for something that I was super uncomfortable with. It crossed my boundaries. I was a hard no. But I listened to my marketing guy. I heard him out because he said, just hear me out and then make a decision. And I heard him out. And what he said made sense. And I had to give a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel like I was letting my boundaries go. I understood the business sense of what he was saying and why it would be important. It turned out it never happened anyway, and I'm super glad that it didn't. But the fact that you can listen and seek counsel from other people who have opinions different than yours and really, really listen, actively listen, and then think on that. Because these people, if you have good counsel, are really there for you and on your side. And they really make a world of difference. Like just hearing things from another perspective is so important. And being able to rethink and changing your mind is okay. It's okay to do that.
It is, but we women who want to control everything and maybe a little bit of perfectionism there because we've been taught that that's the way, right? To mask. And it's like, well, then I'll just make everything look perfect. So then it's hard to change your mind because then that would look like you're weak. And that's not the case at all.
No. And you know what? I read something, it was probably on Instagram, God, that said like, it is okay to change your mind. And it's okay to say like, I educated myself more on this, or I learned more about this and I feel differently now, or I think about it differently now. And it's okay to say that because it is okay to change your mind. And we're entitled to gather more information and then make a different decision.
Yes. Which is what I love about education.
Yes.
You are gathering more information. You are researching. You are thinking critically. And you're thinking, okay, what would be best for my community? And you change your mind. And it does make it better. And at the end of the day, that's what you want.
But men changing their mind is normalized.
Yes.
No one questions them. That's why I changed the word feel differently to think differently when I said that twice. Because I realized when I said I feel differently about it, I'm like, no. I don't want to feel about it. I want to think about it because feel instantly implies womanly, whereas think is more masculine. And that sucks.
It does suck and it's not fair, but you are also changing the narrative there because you, like myself, we can bring in our masculine very easily and quickly, right? It's how we do. We can puff out our chests and yeah. But bringing the feminine in is kind of what we all need, especially right now. And I love that you've been wearing brighter lipstick now. You got your hair cut shorter and you're saying, look, I'm here. And you're walking the runway. You are showing people, I am here. And I'm still going to be a fierce advocate, but I'm going to do it Brindley style.
Yeah, I was the girl, like I'm wearing a nude lip today, but usually I'm in a bright red or a pink. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, I wish I could be a girl who wore red lipstick. And then I was like, well, why can't I be a girl who wears red lipstick? Like I could buy a red lipstick. But I never thought that I could be that person, that I could take up that space, that I could be bold, that I could be daring. And then first of all, I love getting older. The only thing I don't like about it is everybody around me gets older. But I love getting older because this shit is incredible. Like, you come into your own. You thought that in your 30s you found yourself. Oh, there's way more coming. Like, seriously.
Just you
This
wait.
is the shit right here. This is like the real... I'm here. I'm taking up space. I know what I want. I'm going after what I want. I know where I belong. I know how I feel. I am like fiercely protective and just an amazing human being. And like, I'm so rooted in that. And I feel like anybody could question my motives. Go ahead because they're solid.
They absolutely are. Yeah. And you see that in the way you move in your nonprofit, the way you move with your community, with your family. Yeah, it's so true. And I don't know, what surprised me is that when you started talking about bathing suits and proms, and I had never considered that before. Do you mind talking about that?
Yeah. Because of where we get HS, a lot of us have dealt with the misinformation about HS, been told to lose weight, quit smoking, which are the top two things that we get told, that it's a hygiene issue before, most of us, it takes 7 to 10 years on average for us to get diagnosed. So in the interim, you're hearing all of these negative things about yourself, and you're thinking all of these negative things about yourself. And because of where HS impacts, we typically will hide. We're the people who go to the pool party, but we wear the big shirt over. Or you wear the shorts because you have groin HS and you don't want anyone to see it. When you go to the beach, you're not necessarily wearing a bathing suit without a cover up. We're the people who, when you're choosing a prom dress and you have HS in your armpits, it's really difficult to find a prom dress with sleeves so that you can hide. Same thing with wedding dresses. We're the people who, like, you just pray that nobody asks you to be a bridesmaid because you know that you're going to wear a frickin' sleeveless dress, and then you're going to have to figure out how to cover your armpits. You know, these are all things that we go through that nobody knows. And most people, honestly, that I've encountered in the HS community have not even thought about the ways that we have been robbed of these experiences in life. And so what we're trying to do is to recreate situations where, you know, we did our red carpet night at Empower, and it was like, wear the dress that you wish you could wear. Go buy the dress that you would never wear anywhere else. Because guess what? In this group, nobody gives a shit about your armpits. No, nobody cares. I mean, we are like celebrating the fact that you're showing your armpits. And the same thing with the bathing suits. Like, we really want to put together like an HS pool party or, you know, spring break, think MTV old spring break, where we're like taking over a hotel and we have the entire pool area. Because guess what? Nobody cares about your HS in here. Wear the bathing suit. Wear the white bathing suit. You drain on it. Nobody cares. Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. Because guess what? We have wound care for you in the bathrooms. And guaranteed, if you need help, any one of these other people would go in there and help you with your wounds. We just want to normalize the situation. We want to give back. We're the people who didn't go have slumber parties because you were afraid you were going to drain. Your abscesses would drain on the sheets. We walk into hotels, and even now, when I'm not having issues, the white sheets are still startling to me. White towels in hotels. We have a lot of patients who travel with their own towel because they don't want to mess up towels. We have patients who worry about if they're going to have to pay extra because they may have drained on their sheets. Yeah. Giving people back these moments in their lives that they, in some cases, never even considered had been taken from them. This is part of where healing starts.
Do you all see? Why she belongs as the CEO and founder. Because as I said, you've lived it, and now you're full circle. So I wanted you to talk about that, because for you to take up space now and to wear the bright lipstick and to wear whatever you want is such a huge thing. You've come so far, and you are showing everyone that they can do it also. And it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard and worth it.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions for you. You know, at the end of the day, the ups and downs, family life, responsibilities, traveling, which is painful, all the things that you do in a day, is it worth it? Would you do it again?
I would absolutely do it again. Yeah. I would think about it differently. Like, hindsight's always 20/20, right? I would do some things differently. But overall, like, this journey has made me, all of the mistakes I've made, all of the wins, every part of it. Every time I got kicked in the teeth and had to go back and figure it out again, every time has like made me the person that I am. And all of these experiences, like, I am the culmination of all of that. And that part to me is incredible, and I would not change that for the world. I would absolutely 100% do it again.
Yeah. So what would your advice be to a woman who is thinking of starting a nonprofit?
Find your counsel. Find the people who are educated, the people who have knowledge. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That was one of the huge learning pieces for me, was not being fearful, especially in working with the pharma industry, of saying, okay, I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? Or what does this look like? And I think just not being afraid to ask for help, or for, ask questions to figure things out. Go to people who've already done what you're looking to do and learn from them instead of bashing your head against a wall. What were their pitfalls? We're trying to do something similar. Tell me the wins, the losses. How can you help me not have to repeat what you had to go through? Take advice from anyone who will give it to you that's sound, that's good advice. There's a lot of bad advice out there, but really, like, in your heart, you have to be assured of the decisions that you're making and know that you're making them for the right reasons. And that, as long as your North Star is in place and you're constantly doing that and going for that, then you're on the right road.
Yes, I agree. And speaking of that, you are paying it forward. You have this wonderful community that you have, your babies that you have nurtured. They are, in a sense, growing up, and now they are paying it forward. So that ripple effect, I want to talk about that for a minute, because I don't see that much out there. I don't see the paying it forward. I see the programs, okay, we help this many people, you've got your KPIs and blah, 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 blah. But it's that paying it forward so that it outlasts and outlives this.
Yes. Yeah. So we're creating an army of advocates, in essence. We have a mentee program, an advocate training program that we started last year. We had our first cohort go through, and we did it pairing them up with a mentor last year. And we changed the program this year to be more automated. It's got videos in it. It's a drip campaign, because the overhead and the lift for us is lighter to do it this way. It's more sustainable long-term. And we kind of realized that it wasn't very helpful to have the mentees work with the mentors. The timing was hard. Getting on calls together was difficult because of work schedules and things like that. So we, again, paid attention, what worked, what didn't, and then adapted and made this version 2 of the program. There will probably be a version 3, maybe a version 26. Who knows? But this is our first shot at doing it differently to see how this works. Everything we do, we consider a pilot, right? Because we don't know how it's going to work out. Winging a prayer. That's what we're working off of. And so this program enables patients who are interested in being advocates to go through a 6-month program and graduate with like a certificate from us, where they learn about the disease, they learn about how to handle conversations, they learn about like social media, even setting boundaries, how to deal with tough conversations when you're entering into them on social media that end up kind of being a fight, how to put good information forward, how to help people. So they become very educated in the disease and then also in helping others. So then when they are out in the world, they are educating with the correct information and helping patients. We have 47 people signed up to go through this next cohort that starts February 1st. 47 people. And that was from like 1 or 2 social media posts. Some of them are outside the US, which makes my heart super happy. Because we're also, working on the global end of things too. And so our plan eventually is to have this as a global program that is put through in their own languages so that everybody can become an educated advocate. So this is our paying it forward, is educating people and then putting them out into the world and saying like, go do the good work, go help other people become educated. Unfortunately, people are drawn to bad information for some odd reason. I don't know why. I would pay $1 million if somebody could figure that out. I don't really have $1 million. My check would bounce, but it's the idea behind it.
Just right now.
But why people are so drawn to bad information is beyond me. And so it's difficult when you're constantly combating that and trying to educate people who do not want to be educated. Which is another piece of life that I just don't understand, is that how people just want to sit and actively choose not to become educated. So we're never going to have, 100%, but my goal is 90. I'll settle for that.
No, you won't.
True. We'll find all the ones who, the defectors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you brought up global, because that has been in the back of your mind for a couple years also, and now you are doing it.
Yeah. And again, same thing. Just an idea, put it out there, started doing it without funding, because really it was having interviews with patients and physicians to find out about each country. And that was basically just our time to do that. And we've just launched 5 different countries, which is really cool. And like, I'm going to a European conference next week and taking the materials that we have created in hard copy. And we are the first organization to go global like this in the HS space. So I'm very excited about it. And now we just need people to see the value in it and fund the program.
And they will.
It will come.
So it shall be. Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. But what a huge, bold step to say, I know that this is needed globally, so I'm going to be the one to do it.
Yep.
That takes some big whatever.
In your face.
I'm trying to think of a feminine reframe for us. We've talked about that before.
Big
too.
Ovaries.
Yes. It takes some big ovaries to say, I'm going to step into the global space. I don't necessarily know how that's going to look, but I'm going to try because people need it.
Yeah. And you know what? We'll probably figure it out. It'll take 5 iterations, I'm sure, if not more. Mm-hmm. But I'm here for it. Mm-hmm. And every time we do a new iteration, I've learned something and we're doing it better. And what can be said about that other than like, you had mentioned earlier action. And I think it really gets down to that. Look, you don't have to have a full-fledged plan about how you're going to do something. You need to know that it's needed and how you think you can go about it at the beginning. Pilot that shit, see where it falls, and then go from there. Yes. Because sitting there thinking about it over and over is not moving the needle forward. Giving it a shot and then taking the feedback and then doing another iteration of that, that's action. That's moving the needle forward. But you don't have to have a fully thought out plan for everything. Just do.
Right. Don't worry about your slide deck. Just get out there and take the first step. Yes. And that's what you've shown, that it works, because that's what you're doing. You do have some nice slide decks. Not going to lie. Thank you, Christina.
Yep.
Right? It takes a team. It takes a lot of people to make this work. Like, let's be honest about that, which is the other thing, because when I started working with Brindley, she was one woman and she can do it all, but she can't do it all, right? Like, we can't. Yeah. She's tired. She's very tired. And you have just so much to do, and building that team is super important, so that it doesn't have to be all on you, and you can go, like we talk about, right? You go get that new business and your team supports you.
Yes.
And that's worked out really well.
It really has. And I personally feel incredibly fortunate to find somebody whose like passion rivals mine, because I think that is really hard to come by. And sometimes, like, as Lisa knows, Christina and I get a little excited, and then like our ideas just spark. And then she's like, oh my God, you guys had time alone together. Like, this is not good. Like, when we go to conferences, she's always like, oh shit, they're going to come back with some fucking cockamamie idea about what they're going to do next. Let me guess, But that also keeps the excitement happening, because it's 2026. I'm thinking about 2027 and 2028. Mm-hmm. I mean, thanks to Lisa, I was able to park my ideas on a future ideas sheet to get them out of my head, at least, which I'm adding to daily, by the way. So it's really important to find the people that can truly help and support you. And if you're fortunate enough to find someone like I have been, like, you hold them dearly. Mm-hmm. And Christina has been I call her like my co-pilot. Like, it's interesting too when you think about it, because she has a really good relationship with some of the sponsors that like she has just connected with. And so instead of me being like, oh, well, I'm handling sponsorship. I'm like, ride with it, baby. You've got a good relationship. What does it matter? That's the ego being removed.
Yes.
Because it's what's best for the business, and you're going to get further with the people who you resonate with. So why would I stand in the way of that?
Right. Yeah. Really great point. I also love that you just said business, because I don't think a lot of people think of a nonprofit as a business.
Oh, it's a business. It's a business. It's in the business of helping people and using that money to do that. But it absolutely is a business. And I think I lived in a little bit of a la-la land for a while about that, not understanding. Thank God we were small at that point and we could afford to do that. But now I'm like, oh, what was that charge? Oh, how much was that? Every morning checking the bank account, because you get to a point where you do have to manage it. And there has to be that switch that flips to say like, oh, okay, because everything costs money and everything costs way more money now than it used to. And that hurts. It hurts. And you also, when you're building, I realized this year, we're no longer going to do like a corporate sponsorship. I'm just upping the amounts of our sponsorships to include corporate sponsorships. Because nobody wants to do a corporate sponsorship anymore. But that's what we need is corporate sponsorships. That's what pays our overhead, pays us, all of that. So in looking at that, it was like, okay, well, nobody's biting on this. I'm going to do this differently then. Next year, okay, so what is working? What isn't working? But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. It absolutely is a business. And my word of advice would be to treat that just like that from the very beginning.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because you come into it with heart. That's going to be the reason, your vision and the love that you have and how you want to help. But you still, especially, it wasn't really until I feel that you brought on a team and then it was, I need to look at this differently. So if you were to start again, right? Hindsight, of course. But yeah, it would be integrating that more, which you and I both really don't like spreadsheets, but it's important to be looking at the bank account, to be thinking about your budget for these events from the beginning.
Yes. The budget piece and like all of that, I self-admittedly was not good at. Now, like I will be very good at it because now I'm watching everything. And that was the other thing is, I trusted employees to do what was in the best interest of the business. And that varied from what my version of what was in the best interest of the business was. And that cost money. So I also have realized like I had to hone that in. And now like everyone has a credit card and I know exactly what charges are made on each card. So that was a learning experience too. Yes. Of figuring that out, which was an accounting nightmare too, because everybody had like the debit card number and was then at the end of the month, it was like, well, who charged this? Well, I don't know. I didn't charge anything. Well, actually it was you. So learning that too, how much time I spent trying to bird dog that stuff that could have been avoided had I done it differently. But I also didn't know that there was another way to do it at that point.
Right. And so like, and you didn't need to develop SOPs, in that moment because it was you and then another and then another. And so you're going so quickly that taking that time to really step back and say, okay, well, what systems do we need in place now?
Yes. Yeah. Acknowledging that too. And I think, a huge piece of it is giving yourself grace. I've never fucking done this before.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing. I am literally the definition of faking it till you make it.
You do know what you're doing. I do tell you that. I make her stop and pat herself quite often because we women, we want, that quick win comes in and then we just move along. It's like you told me today that you just got off the phone with a big pharma company. And I was like, okay, well now let's start recording. It's like, wait a second. This is a big deal. You just put on your big girl pants and said, show me the money. That's huge. So you do know what you're doing. It just sometimes doesn't feel like it. And, you sweat a little.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm now okay with all of that. Like, I didn't used to be because I felt like I needed to have everything like so lined out and like know what my plan was in order to feel assured of things. And now I don't feel that way anymore. I'm like, okay, if we need to change it midway, then we change it midway. If we need to, ideate on this differently, then we'll do that. But the most important thing is that we're getting started.
Yes. Just starting. You don't need that 5-year strategic plan, people.
Listen, it changes. I mean, I swear to God, we don't need a strategic plan for 6 months. We need one for 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it feels like because things change so quickly.
Yes. Especially in the growth that you're finding, experiencing, and saying yes to. Well, I know you want to say yes to it all. That get back here for a second.
Part of my problem.
But that's what makes you a visionary. And I would love to clone you and put more Brindleys out into the world because you really are changing lives by taking that action, sparking those big ideas, and then you put them into action so quickly that people can't even believe it. I mean, people tell you that, like, wow, you implement so quickly. And it's because you know what your community needs.
Well, and I think that goes to, first of all, agility is super important. Being able to like be agile, change things, rethink things, think outside of the box. Like the way that it's been done isn't the way it needs to always be done. I hate that phrase so much. Well, this is the way we've always done it. Yeah. It makes me want to like punch someone in the face because it's that if nothing says we need a change, that phrase says we need a change. Yes. And, working within the confines of that sometimes is very difficult because in working with the pharmaceutical industry, there is a lot of regulatory pieces of that dictate a lot of what we do and what we can and can't do, even up to the amount of funding we can get from a single sponsor. So we're working within confines of their hands being tied as well. But the important thing is to get started. You don't have to have it all the way thought through. An idea is all you need. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what sparks everything.
Yep. And the willingness to go try.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes you think you know what your community needs. We had a program we ran last year that was funded. We thought we knew what the community needed. The community told us what they needed. We listened. It fell flat. But you know what? That's not a failure on me. We built it. Mm-hmm. We listened to the needs. We figured out what needed to be there, and it just didn't work. And that what are you going to do about that? Nothing. You're going to keep that as a resource, but you're going to also pivot and say we're not spending any more time on that.
Yep. Exactly. That's so strategic of you, Brindley.
Oh my God. I'm just going to take your job now. Just kidding. I don't want your job.
Oh, thanks.
And I need you, so I can't take your job.
Oh, I have just loved watching you. It makes my heart so happy. And then when I go and I get to meet your community and spend time with them, I'm in awe. Yeah, it's been wonderful to watch your journey. It's going to keep just global. I'm going to have to do strategic planning with you in Amsterdam for us.
Yeah, we were like, should we do it in Italy maybe?
That would work. Yes. Where can people find you?
hsconnect.org is our website. And then on socials, we are at hsconnect.org on all socials.
Yes. You have a very great Instagram page. Lots of information there. Of course, your website is just, I love it because there's so many resources for people that it's just like from the first step all the way through. And that's what you give to your community. And it's so helpful. And then Instagram, of course, when you're scrolling Instagram, there's always good stuff to see about HS Connect and what your community is doing as well, because they post a lot on there. They talk about their journeys. They support you. It's really cool to see and to watch.
Yeah, I love it. I love it all.
Thank you for joining me today. You are an inspiration. I tell you all the time. You really are. Like, I don't know what that would be, 0.25%. I don't know, but we need more women like you who are willing to step into the ring, fight for the cause, create the solutions. And so thank you for being you.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm happy to help. If you have anybody who wants to reach out, they can reach out to you and then get to me. But I also want to pay it forward in helping people where I wish I would have had somebody who could guide me on certain things. So I'm happy to help anybody.
Well,
we got to run it by Lisa first.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey now. Only
Okay,
so much time in the day. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here today. We'll see you next time on The Rich Nonprofit.